Pilgrims, and welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage. And today we're going to go over some more Unity to Unreal users tips, and some of the things we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to use the assets that we created during the recent Global Game Jam 2017. So these will be our sample assets for today. So we're going to talk about 4 different things that are very familiar to avid Unity users, and talk about how can we do those things now in Unreal. Say you're switching engines, or say you just, like me, want to learn both. Let's talk about those. So we're going to be talking about how to do custom collisions to our objects. We're going to talk about how do we create an empty game object like we used to have in Unity. How do we do that here? And how can we parent things together to create, groupings in our world? And how do prefabs work? And there is a direct correlation to all of these, and some of them are just not in the places you would think to look. So for our first asset here that we're going to talk about, I have the wall piece from our level. Now the wall trim is actually on a separate material, so that's not going to be here in the scene. We're just working with some very simple assets for today, but I've attached a material here that has our wall diffuse and our wall normal, just to give us something to look at. So first of all, let's take a look at our material, just to give you guys an overview here. Something I did learn recently that is very handy as well is I originally said this is very difficult to put all these things together, and we are going to be talking about next week, I believe, a new texturing process of combining textures, and that's really exciting. But let me say I just get rid of these for now. Typically, all the tutorials I've seen here, if I dock this to the top, they tell you, oh, go here, select the material, come here, hold T and press the left mouse button, and it will bring in a sample. And it's a little tedious, but I found that if you just have this like half windowed, so here I can see my material here, you can just drag and drop. Boom, boom, and we're moving along. So that's one thing right there. That's kind of a bonus tip. It wasn't on my list for today, but that is so much nicer. So I'll just reattach all of these. I tend to do that a lot. I drag it when I want to move the connection. So we'll save that. There we go. Save. And we'll close that. And there we go. We're right back to where we were. So just a quick tip on that. That's very handy. So first up on our list is how do we do some custom collisions. So let's double click this object and we'll bring it up into our scene here. And it is tiny in this world here. It's itty bitty. It's way over here. There he is. Try and get close to him. So that's one problem I had coming from Unity to Unreal, is learning about the difference in size, and I tend to model everything in inches, but I think for the game jam we were going so fast, I think I didn't set it properly, and so it just came in crazy. So let's see if we can we make that bigger here? No, I'm gonna have to do that in the software before we bring it in. So, but in any case, if you do click on the bounds, you'll see the bounds of the object. And I'm sorry, this is way tiny. Let's get a little closer if I can. There we go. Oh boy. Okay, so you can see the bounds of the object, and then if you click collision, it will show you the collision. And one thing I learned about collision, which was interesting, I had a piece that was huge. I mean, it had so much to it, and it had a lot going on. And one of the things I learned was in the collision section, you can say customize collision, which is really nice, but there was an option to change the collisions. Maybe it was in the objects over here. You can change the collisions to say use all the surfaces, basically. I think it was up here, maybe collision, auto convex. No. There's an option, there's a drop down option, and you can say I want my collision to be exactly the structure that you see, which is really handy if you have things like a fence or railing and you want to be able to bump into all of them for some reason, or if you want to be able to hit each of them. It's a great little option, and I'll keep looking for it as we go. I think I might have found it. Yeah, use complex collision as simple. There you go. That's the option right there. And what this guy does for us is it takes the entire surface and makes it all a collision. Instead of saying, like, for this wall, we'd have a box collision, that would be a thing. And we can add to it too. I can say collision, I can say add simplified box. There we go. So that will do it too. And this is great for, say I had a piece protruding off and it's kind of weird and it's not quite what we need. Say we had like a brick sticking out and it was really important for some reason that brick have physics and have collision. We could add this box, and then you can change the parameters of the box it's in the list somewhere. You can change the parameters of the box and say, let me make this box smaller and put it right in the spot that I want it to be, and those get added in. You have a whole list that shows up and you can select it, but we don't need that for right now. But it is there and you can change it. See, box collision, you can add an element and you can change all that in here, and that allows us to have a little bit more customized control. In Unity we have our inspector, and we just click, add collision, and then I do like Unity's tools a little bit better for moving the bounds of the collision around. That's a little bit nicer. So that would be one thing that I would, complain about a little bit. I would say that they could improve. Unless there's something in here that I'm not aware of, please let me know, because that would be super handy to be able to have a way to kind of push and pull the collision manually. I would like that a lot. So that's pretty cool. We get all kinds of things in here, so let's close that. So now next, how do we do an empty game object? Well, we have a couple of things up here in our world outliner, which is our equivalent to the, this is like our hierarchy actually, our hierarchy up here. Our details thing here, this is more like our inspector per object for what we're looking at. So if I look at the floor, if I look at the world, if I look at this, so this is our hierarchy and this is our inspector. So in the hierarchy, one of the tricks I use all the time in Unity is I will create an empty game object and then put things into it so I can keep track of them and I can sort of organize the scene. Well, we can do that here with folders, and the nice thing is we can have a folder made for us, or we can make a new folder. So here if I select nothing, well, it's hard to select nothing, but see, create a new folder containing the current actor selection. So let me make a duplicate of this, so I'm going to Alt and drag a copy, and right there, Alt and drag another copy, and right there. So now I have all these walls, and say I want to put all these walls together. So I'm going to select and hold Shift. There we go. Got 3 selected. There they are. A, 2, and 3. And say make a new folder and call this walls. There we go. Now the nice thing about this is the little eyeball here. I could hide them in the scene. So if you wanted to hide all of your walls while you're working on a puzzle or you're working on connecting things and your scene just gets kind of messy, it's a nice way to be able to hide them. I don't believe if I just click on walls, I don't get an option to actually move the walls around as a group natively. What you have to do is click on walls, right click, and you can say select, and I can say all descendants. Now that sort of reselects everything in that list for me, and now I can move all the walls together. But there's not a way to, when everything's collapsed like this, just say I want to move this. See, if I hit the move key, nothing's happening. So I do have to do a little bit of extra work and say select, and at the moment I don't think immediate children does anything different from selecting all descendants, because we don't have a second layer of inheritance here. So for example, if I were to create another wall, let's do a wall in the end here, we'll separate them a little bit so that we know that there's a difference there. And I'm going to create a folder for him and say subwall, right? So he's separate from the walls. So if I go up to walls and say select immediate children, he's not going to be selected. See? But if I go up to walls and say select all descendants, then I get all 4 walls. So that's pretty nice, but you do only have one layer of iteration there, so you would have to say this guy had several walls and I wanted to select all of his walls. Well, then I have to go to subwall and say immediate children, but not all direct descendants. So it gets a little complicated in there, but the main point is it's really nice that we do have a way to organize, especially be able to hide things is super important. Once your scene gets crazy complicated, that can be troublesome. So having the ability to hide things is pretty fantastic. So next up, we're going to talk about, well, we did talk about the folders and parenting a little bit. Parenting, you can kind of parent things in this manner. It's only a single parent, but you can do sub-parents like this. So that's good. And then prefabs. So how do prefabs work inside of Unity, or inside of Unreal here, sorry. I know how they work in Unity. How do they work in Unreal? So say, I've got these walls and it's great, and once I have one, I could duplicate it, but having, the ability to just have something here and say, let me drag it into the scene would be really fantastic. So if I take my wall, start with the original, it's real simple. There's a button. Blueprint, add script. Converts this actor into a reusable blueprint class that can have a script behavior. So let's click that. And I'm going to call this, I like calling it BP for blueprint, wall A. So it's the type of wall is A, and it is a blueprint. So create that, and you should see him here. Yep, bloop, pops up. So now we have the ability to add things to this. We could add, say, a light. We could add, let's add a light. That's actually a good idea. Let's add a light. So all of our walls will glow now, strangely. Ooh, mysterious. So what we're going to do here is we can add some things to it. We can even add different components here. And what's cool about this is these components, some of them have hooks in them. So we could add a hook to say we're going to add like a little spot. So say for this type of wall, if you could interact with it, say you could write on the wall, we could add a spot where we could then programmatically link into that and then put a texture on the wall to say we've scribbled on the wall or painted on the wall. So that's a cool hook that we can put into the prefab. So when we're done with all this, I hit compile, everything's good of course, we'll hit save, and we'll go ahead and close that guy out. So now you see that guy, because he's the one that I was messing with, has the light, and he became the light. So let's get rid of the other walls, and you'll notice that our sub walls here, look, our folders got messed up because we changed things. So I believe you can just delete those. Yeah, delete those and they're fine, and now we're back to normal. So that's something to keep in mind, that's going to change, okay? So now we have our BP, let's see, where did we put him at? BP underscore, is he under content, global game jam? No, where did he get put at exactly? Because I know we have BP right here, BP wall A, but I'm looking for him in the list here. There he is. Okay, just couldn't see him. So now, to add another one, just drag him into the world. He is backwards at first because of his orientation, but if we turn him around, you'll see there he is. Exact same, ready to roll. Snap him in place. Oh, snap you in place. They're offset because I moved one manually earlier. Anyway, so now we have two walls with lights. Everything is the same, and it was really super easy. So typically the way you do this in Unity is you would import the model, put the textures on it, get it all set up, and then drag it into a folder. So now instead of doing that, we just get everything set up the way we want, except for some of those internal hook type things, and you just click a button. And you notice now my button says Edit Blueprint, and it's the same for any of the instances. So this is the original, quote unquote, but really now he's this, and this guy is a duplicate of him. However, they both have this button that says Edit Blueprint, because now it's all the same thing. So if I go and say Edit Blueprint, open the Blueprint Editor, we want to go to the viewport, because we don't care about the graph necessarily, but we could do some graph stuff in here too. So let's add something else just as an example. Let's add a sphere, okay? All right, there it is. It's kind of small, but there we go, we have a sphere, supposedly. So we'll compile, save, we'll close that. Now I edited this one on the right. I don't know if that sphere worked out the way we intended it to. But if I look at the one on the left, if I double click this guy, edit blueprint, open, he should also have the sphere. Oh, there it is. The sphere is huge. That's why we were not seeing it. The sphere is too big. But there it proves the point that they're both exactly the same. They both reach to the same script, which is great because now I can create as many as I like from one kind of master cookie cutter. And that's the way prefabs work if you're wasn't familiar. But those are fantastic, and I really like the fact that it makes it so easy that we just click a button, and you can even have multiples inside of a folder. Now, what would be really nice is to put everything in a folder, and then turn the folder into a blueprint to say, I want this whole configuration of all of these things. Because I think you might be able to do that inside the blueprint editor, but I'm not sure. But let's experiment just a little bit. Put these into a folder. We'll call this folder test. And yeah, I don't think so because the folder doesn't have any options down here. The folder is just a folder. See, no world settings, but there's no turn it into a blueprint. So to do that, what we would have to do is we would have to go into each of these, and I believe what you can do is, do this. You can add another static mesh, and you might be able to kind of assemble it inside of this scene, which it does have snapping and all of that. So we could assemble a little scene here, maybe prefab a whole room. So say you have multiple walls, you have a door, you have some decorations, that kind of thing, which would be very handy for some projects I have in mind. And then we could have this whole prefab be a room with all of the decorations, the lights, everything. You can do some scripting. You could even put a script on the door to say, hey, when the player comes near this, open and let them in. And then once that prefab is complete, or the blueprint, sorry, I keep calling it prefab because that's kind of what it is to me, then we can take that blueprint and just drag and drop them into the world. So the blueprints are incredibly handy, and they do a great job of making our lives so much easier with building games, and it makes things much quicker and more reliable because they're all coming from one source. So you edit one source, like you do in programming. You would make a function, and that function you use all the time. Like the calculator, you use a calculator on your computer all the time. We make sure the calculator works, and if you make a change to the calculator, then every time you use it, you have that new function. So fantastic! I'm a big fan. It's awesome. So a little shorter for this week, guys, but I hope that you guys have enjoyed. I hope that this was good information for you, that you're getting more comfortable with switching softwares or learning a new piece of software. It's always a good thing, grow the brain. Definitely, I'm all about that. So as always, if you guys have any questions, if there's anything that I haven't covered that you want to know more about, or that you have something that I've missed, please let me know. I'm learning too. I am by no means an expert. This is a journey, and it will continue forever. We'll continue to grow and be better artists every day, and that's what we're all about. So please don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. If you want to see more, send me a message, let me know. And as always, guys, keep practicing, get better, and I will see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.